All right, so Sophie Cunningham really shined with Caitlin Clark out, and she is going to be an absolute steal for the Indiana Fever because not only does she bring a level of toughness and tenacity that the team needed, and of course, they brought other players in who bring a little bit of that as well, the vets in Bonner and Howard, but there's a certain level of spiciness with Sophie Cunningham, but she's also the best perimeter playmaker on the team outside of Caitlin Clark, which we found out watching this game today because the gap between Caitlin Clark and Sydney Colson as an on-ball player and distributor and everything else cannot really be measured. And the Fever got off to a rough start with Colson leading the show, and it wasn't until Cunningham got into the game they got an injection of life. Cunningham is able to shoot the ball from deep. She can score in that way, of course. She's strong, can finish through contact, and she's able to set others up, not to mention the fact that she moves without the basketball. So all of those things were big stories for the Fever in this game with Sophie Cunningham once she came in out there. And it was really her playmaking, I think, that shined above all. And you saw some of that in conjunction with Lexi Hull. They played really well off of one another. They really did a good job playing together, making things happen together out on the floor. Did Cunningham and Hull, if you can tell them apart from that shot right there. But the two of those players really, really helped the Fever out. And, Lexi Hull is not a great finisher around the rim, which hurts her a bit, but her energy is infectious. And the team just plays better with her out on the floor because she's making all the little hustle plays all the time out there. But, Cunningham is able to do a little bit more. Than just those hustle plays. But there were other plays throughout the game where not only did she hit the outside shot, but she also set her teammates up. And that was a big part of why the Fever had the success that they did in the game. This was the coach, Stephanie White, on Sophie Cunningham after the game. So it's not just me saying those things.
What did Sophie's energy mean to you guys?
Oh, my God. Sophie's a dog. She just is, she's a competitor. She's versatile, so she allows us to do different things. Like, she plays with such toughness. She's huge, and she's going to be for us all season long. But what she brings from an energy standpoint, she raises the level of play of everybody around her as soon as she steps foot on the floor. Hell, even on the sideline. I mean, her communication, everything. She's definitely an X factor.
Definitely an X factor from the head coach, Stephanie White, as I was just saying. As far as some of the other players on the team today, of course, everybody's curious when the preseason is played, but when you don't have Clark, she's not setting the table for some of the other players. Kelsey Mitchell really struggled with her shot in this one, a little bit atypical from her, but life gets easier for her when Clark's out on the floor. I think life particularly gets easier for Natasha Howard, DeWanna Bonner when Clark is out on the floor. Same goes for Aaliyah Boston, who made some nice passes in this game. Colson is an interesting one because I don't know how this roster is going to shake out. You would think from a veteran leadership standpoint and a championship pedigree standpoint, she'll stick around on the roster, but I can't say it's a guarantee because from just a playability standpoint, it didn't seem to me that Colson earned that spot in the rotation, especially once Sophie Cunningham started shining as the secondary playmaker. And Cunningham's going to do that off of Clark too, right? She can play next to her and they can really get the ball popping. She can catch and shoot and all that. And then she can spell Clark as well, like we saw in this game. The rookies, Michaela Timpson had some nice minutes, a pretty big rebound, a pretty big bucket down the stretch of the game. So I thought Timpson did well and still is the favorite in the clubhouse to earn that final roster spot. Ejim didn't really stand out in her minutes, didn't play that much. Jaylen Brown was aggressive, made one big shot, but missed a lot of shots as well. But I think they were giving her an extended look today. Bree Turner did a lot of the little things pretty well that she's been brought on to do, but we didn't see Bree Hall in the game. So not an evaluation you could make there. And then there was Caitlin Clark, who, of course, didn't play, and they're taking the cautious approach with Caitlin Clark. This was Clark before the game on the injury that she's dealing with or the tightness that she's dealing with.
What's going on with that? How are you doing today? Just a little tightness. I'll go through all our warm-ups and everything, and then they'll decide if I'm good to go or not, but it'll be the medical team revisit.
What do you hope to get out of this preseason?
I think just getting a feel of playing with new teammates. This is basically a new roster. You look up and down. Obviously, we got 5 players back, but other than that, you're trying to build chemistry with your teammates. And it can be to rotations. Nobody's going to play a ton of minutes. It's kind of just going out there and getting a feel. We've been going against each other, going against our practice guys, but it's fun to actually go up against another WNBA team and really get a gauge of where you're at.
So there you have it from Caitlin Clark, who didn't play. She did go through the warm-ups. She was listed as questionable up until the last moments there before she was officially ruled out. And Stephanie White talked about the long-term approach with Caitlin Clark's health, which of course makes sense. You got to protect that asset and you got to protect her for the season.
We'll evaluate. Look, the biggest thing is we got to think long-term. We got to make sure that we're not putting Caitlin at risk for injury. We're not putting our team in a position where we're thinking short term and not long term. It's a long season, 4 more games than last season. So we want to make sure that we're extra cautious and put her health and wellness first and foremost. And honestly, it's been one day at a time. How she's reacted to treatment, how she's reacted to workouts. So positive progress is being made, but we can't be short-sighted.
So there you have it. And then after the game, White also talked about Clark and her leadership on the floor and insinuated that Caitlin will be playing in the return game to Iowa, which makes sense to rest her in the front end of the back-to-back, all things considered.
And Caitlin seemed pretty active on the bench today. What was her leadership like, just kind of on the sidelines? And do you have a status for her for tomorrow as well?
Yeah, first of all, her communication was outstanding. Seeing different things on the floor and being able to communicate that in huddle. I heard a lot of different voices, but when you're not playing, it gives you a different perspective. And I felt like she did a really good job of that with her teammates, and she did a really good job of that with us in the coaching staff. Just different things that she's seeing, different pointers for us in terms of maybe even communication style. I thought she was really engaged, and I felt like at one point she wanted to go back and put her uniform on and come out and play. As far as status update, she had a lot of progress in the last 24 hours, and that was our goal. Our goal is to see how she progresses every day. So we'll see what happens and see how she feels after the workouts that she went through today, and then hopefully she'll be ready to go tomorrow.
There you go. Hopefully she'll be ready to go tomorrow, which is a pretty telling comment from the Fever head coach. Obviously, this team will look better with Caitlin Clark back out there, but in a way, it's good to get a look at them without Clark, and you got to see that Sophie Cunningham was able to shine with CC sidelined, and I'm sure that star will shine even brighter once everybody and all the stars are out on the floor together.